So, the last thing we've been working on, or the latest thing, I should say, that we've been working on for the FJ is the water system. And I originally had this idea. Oh, yeah, super simple idea where I was just going to get a one of these 12-volt, inexpensive 12-volt submersible pump, and I was going to have this thing set up so that I could plug it in at different locations around the rig because I had water tanks located in different locations around the rig. I have these two-gallon Rotopacks in the back, accessible from the back of the rig when the rear door is open, and then two 2.6-gallon collapsible water tanks I'm getting off of Amazon. Not very expensive, but pretty highly regarded. Um, and those are kind of towards the front of the rig and accessible from the passenger side of 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 the FJ, um, through the doors. So yeah, simple idea. I'm just gonna have this 12-volt submersible pump thing with a hose connected to it, and I'm just gonna drop it into the tank that I'm gonna draw water from. I buy two different pumps. I bought a Rotopax tank, and primarily to test this idea. And the pumps themselves do not fit in the fill opening. They won't fit. Um, and I don't think there's a submersible tank that will, or submersible pump that will. So plan B. And plan B was find another small, reasonably powerful, low draw in terms of DC load pump that I can mount somewhere, and then set up some plumbing, hoses, etc., electrical to make all this thing work. And I found the right pump and I bought it. It's a SureFlow, 3 gallons per minute pump, 7.5 amps maximum draw, which is great. So I needed to keep it under 10, and preferably well under 10. So 7.5 amps is fantastic. It's 3 gallons per minute is plenty for what we're going to need, and we're primarily using this for potable water to fill uh, pots when we are maybe making some pasta, or we need water for coffee in the morning, things like that, or maybe fill some water bottles, I don't know. But it's all potable water. We're not going to be using this water for washing dishes. I have a separate tank that's on the outside of the rig that I'm going to use for that. This 6-inch PVC tank that I made. So anyway, so there's, what's that, 9.2 gallons total of potable water in two different locations, which makes it a little tricky because of the two different locations. But it's just what will fit in the build. So anyway, so my first idea was to mount this pump back here, kind of behind the Rotopax tanks, and mount it to this board. Now I already had a board in place, and the board is primarily there as a spacer board. Now what I was kind of thinking that the Rotopacks would kind of fit in loose, or relatively loose. And so that 1/2-inch plywood was just there as a spacer. So I already had the board in place that I could mount this thing to. I had to make some adjustments to it. I cut the board based on my initial idea for this. Went to test fit it in the FJ, and it's too big. It's too long. It's not going to fit, and there's really no room for the pump and the plumbing and everything. So it's because you need a filter, sediment filter, and yeah. So it wasn't gonna work. Plan C. Plan C is the thing I'm going to show you now. So this is a quick and dirty model of the pump that I made after buying the thing, having it in hand, and measuring it. So it's accurate. I know it's accurate in terms of its size, etc. I already had, obviously I had the framing for the cot in place. I had to add two pieces of metal. That's it, to make this little frame to mount another board to this 1/2-inch board, and we'll mount the pump to that board. The way the pump is going to work is one side of it obviously is water coming out of the pump, being driven by the pump, and the other is water being pulled into the pump, or being impelled into the pump by the that water is coming from those two different locations. And this sort of middle location, it's actually kind of good because the pump is kind of in the middle of the rig, so it's kind of like almost halfway between those two water source locations, which is good. It's hidden, so that's good, and so we don't have to see it. But if I need access to it, it's easy to get access to it. It's just sitting here right next to this greenish box is representative of my Anchor Solix power station. So it sits right next to that, and it's positioned in such a way that I can still get all my plugs and whatnot into the Anchor. Now, a lot of people are probably going to say, well, you've got this thing that might leak water near an electrical appliance. That's true. However, the reality is this thing isn't going to leak. It really isn't. And if it does leak, it's going to leak straight down. So I'm really not too worried about it. I think it should be fine. I mean, if you've ever seen a boat and how plumbing and electrical is kind of combined in the same space in a boat, you would probably say, well, that looks dangerous. But it happens all the time because there's just no space to kind of separate these systems completely. It's impractical to do it. So there's always going to be these things combined in the same space. I'm not worried about it. And again, it's very low draw. It's only 7.5 amps and it's all DC. So I think that's good. And really there's nothing here that's an AC load. Although there are some AC plugs on the other side of this Anchor. Okay, so the red, I just used red and blue. It's not indicative of hot and cold like you would normally have with piping. It's just that blue is going out to the hose that we will use for, at the back of the FJ, the business end of it. The red is the fill. It's coming into the pump. So blue is out of the pump. Red is into the pump. Okay. The thing that kind of makes this work is this super cool valve I found on Amazon, which is essentially a 4-position valve. So with that valve, I can select from, and you can see how the hose kind of comes in and then it branches. I didn't draw the valve, but that's where the valve goes right there. And it's easy to reach for adjusting. I can choose to have water coming from both the tank locations simultaneously, each one independently, or turn it off completely. Not bad. So, 4-position valve. The problem with this valve that I have to solve is all the fittings on this valve are meant for compression fittings, 2 3/8 and 1 5/8. None of the hoses that are part of this water system are compression, are meant for compression fittings. This is all 1/2-inch inside diameter braided PVC hoses, 3/4 inch outside diameter, 1/2 inch inside, and it's meant to be pushed into a barb and then have a hose clamp put on it. It's really simple. And all those fittings that I'm using, all those barb fittings are all 1/2-inch MPT for the threaded side of it. So 1/2-inch barb, 1/2-inch MPT. So I need to figure out a way to be able to connect 3 of those to this super cool valve I bought. And I'm not sure how to do it yet. So I can't find anything on Amazon I think that will work. And I'm going to a local plumbing supply shop tomorrow morning to see if they can help me. I'm taking the valve with me. Now, if they happen to have a valve that does exactly the same thing with standard MPT threads for MPT fittings, I'm buying it on the spot. If they have it. I just don't know if they will. And then I'll just return what I bought from Amazon. Okay. Let's look at the next. Now we're going to swing around to the back. So, yeah, so it's a little bit of a dance. So, the hose that I'm buying is very flexible, and what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take the caps for the Rotopacks. I'm going to remove the spout portion of the tank that I'm drawing water from, which leaves a hole that's large enough for a 3/4 inch hose to go in. I've already checked it, so that'll work perfectly. I can just leave the cap in place without the spout, and then as I am switching from one tank to the other, all I do is I just switch the caps. The one with the spout on the one that's closed goes to the one goes to the tank that's empty, etc. So, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do the Amazon collapsible jugs yet, because I don't have them, so I don't really know. But I don't even know what the caps look like on those things. But that's the idea: is that the source, this red hose shown as red, will actually go from one tank to the other. When one tank is empty, I switch to the other. And then as soon as I get to a point where I can fill that tank up, I'll take my hose and I'll, with my water filter on it, inline filter, and I'll fill that tank back up. To try and keep close to having as much water in the rig as possible. It's the last thing I want to do is run out of water. But like I said, I'm only using this water for some not a lot of use, and the so this braided hose, this braided PVC hose, is going to get connected to a metal hose, which at the end of which will have a kind of this sprayer head that is basically a pull-down sprayer, kitchen pull-down sprayer. It's all metric and whatever, because that's how all these things are. So I need a special adapter to make that work, but no big deal. And I'll have a little shut-off valve right at that handle, so that when I oh, and by the way, before I forget, right down here is the power switch for the water pump, so that's at the back. So make sure that the hose is turned to the off position on the valve, turn on the pump, get some pressure up, and then I can use it. And I can vary the amount of water with that valve, so it's not on and off. It's very analog. It's super cool. It's a really nice valve. So that was a win. I'm really happy with that. The blue hose is that supply line, so that's the one that's going to get connected. The red hose is the thing that's going into the tank, and that's where the water is being drawn from. And then the blue is the supply to the sprayer. And there's really only 2 settings on the sprayer. It's either stream, which is default, or you press the button and you get the spray. So most of the time it's just going to be streaming. That's all the spraying I'm probably going to be doing from the other tank. Yeah, the exterior tank. Anyway, that's the water system in the EFJ. And I know kind of what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, oh my God, this is total overkill. Why would you go through this much trouble for 9.2 gallons of water in your camper rig? And my answer is because I don't want to be bothered with trying to pull these tanks in and out of the rig all the time. I just want it to be easy. I want to press a button and I want to pressurize water. that I can use. I don't want to go through the hassle of having to pull these tanks in and out. In fact, none of these tanks are going to be easy to get in and out. They're all going to be difficult. So once they're in, they're kind of in, not permanently in, but in. And these Rotopacks, what I was originally thinking would be loose, or actually would actually mount them to this board. Now I'll have a 1/4-inch HDPE base to this little area where they're going to sit, just to help take some of the load of the weight of them, but they're going to be connected, so they're not going anywhere. Once they're mounted, they're not going anywhere, and I'm using that nice Rotopax extension for that. So, and I did have kind of a panel of HDPE, 1/4-inch HDPE, that was going to kind of hold these things in place so they don't fall that way. But since I'm mounting them to the plywood, I don't have to worry about that anymore, and I don't need that piece of plastic. So it's going to be super clean. And if I do need to take them out, it's pretty easy. I just unscrew the Rotopax mount and pull them out. But I have to take the refrigerator out first in order to do that, because can't get them out. The refrigerator in place won't work because the refrigerator is going right here, right next to them. Anyway, so that is the FJ Stealth Camper water system. Probably way more than you needed to know, but this has been a lot of fun to kind of solve this problem and figure out a way to do this that is somewhat economical, somewhat simple, and hopefully bulletproof, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks for listening. As always, any comments or questions down below, I will do my best to answer. Thanks so much. Bye.